Hi, you're listening to The Comedian's Tea Party with Deaves. Fair warning, this podcast may contain adult content. It may not. I don't know. I never really have a plan. So let's listen on and find out. Hello, and welcome to episode 51 of The Comedian's Tea Party with Deaves. And in this episode, I have got for you Markus Birdman. It's a lovely chat. We have a great time. Markus is a lovely man. Lovely to have him on the podcast. I didn't realise, and I think we discussed it during the podcast. I possibly discussed it after. I didn't realise he lived so local to me for such a long time, but he does. And now we're familiar with each other. So good, lovely guy. So, it's been a little while, I realise that. The last time I was with you, I told you I'd be coming back possibly once a month. That's what I was aiming for. And to be honest, there's been a lot going on. I mentioned it last time. My wife's pregnant, so that's, it's great. We're over 6 months in now. Got a little while left, but we're doing a lot of decoration and renovation to the house. And that is time consuming, like unbelievably. Also, I'm still working full time and I'm still gigging loads, so it's just it's the podcast has taken a bit of a back seat releasing this one. I've got another one to record in a couple of weeks, and I'm going on holiday next week with a friend of mine who is a writer. I've not talked to him about this yet, but I want to get him on the podcast as well. He's got a book coming out. It's very exciting stuff, so I'll talk to him. He'll probably listen to this before I talk to him about it, but let me know if you want to come on, if you hear this. But yeah, it's been a lot. Also, I've been in the midst of sorting out getting my car fixed. It broke down on the M1 on the way home from Derby, which is too far to go for what that gig was. There you go. Such is the nature of stand-up comedy. Sometimes it's not always worth it. Also, on top of car issues, we also talk about a car crash, which is what delayed the recording of this podcast in the first place. We were supposed to record it a couple of weeks sooner, but on the day that I was going to record it, crashed my car. Just a little bit, not too bad. I'm fine. The other guy was fine, but regardless, stressful and prevented the recording. So that's what that's all about. And then on the day that we did record, in the end, I was on my way over there, and there ended up being loads of roadworks that neither of us were aware of, which meant that I got there super late. So I didn't get a chance to make myself a tea. This is the first one that I've not drunk a tea on. So I'm gonna drink a tea in a minute and make up for things. I'm drinking a lot of Yorkshire tea biscuit tea at the minute. My mother-in-law got me some for Christmas, and delightful. I think I've drunk some before, but regardless, great. Big fan. So yeah, the sort of the rushed nature of it, well, they always start a little ramshackle, a little bit sort of mid-conversation, which this one does. I was setting up and I was getting the sound levels right, and I was looking at how my voice was recording. The recording software failed. I had to use a different method of recording. It was a whole thing, but as a result of that, I thought that it was failing in a different way and it wasn't recorded. We got there in the end, but suffice to say, extra stress. Regardless, I was talking about the timbre of my voice and how Markuss's sounded nice, and then he went on to talk about, I've got to point out, it's not something I necessarily agree with. I think it may psychologically have some merit. We're talking about the sound of women's voices. Also leads us to be talking about Mark Lanigan, who, just to give you an idea, when this was recorded, had just died. I'll give you a little bit of a warning now, just in case you're put off. There's nothing sort of gory that happens in it, but the conversations are quite surgery heavy, surgery medical based. We talk a lot about Markus had a stroke. That'll come up. You'll hear it in the conversation. It's a lot of what he talks about now, because it's a big thing. It's a big life-changing thing, as I'm sure you're aware. So yeah, so we talk about that, and he's talking about that in his Edinburgh show. I'm talking about it in my show, which I'm doing at Camden Fringe this year, on the 25th and 27th of August. So I'll talk more about that nearer the time. But come and see that show in Camden. I really love the show. I'm really happy with how it's going. So I think you should come and see it too. And if you're going to Edinburgh, go and see Markuss's show. Go and see that early in the month, then come back, see my show at the end of the month in Camden. That's what you should do. At some point, I'll do a whole list of all of the comedians that have been on the podcast, and I'll tell you about what their Edinburgh shows are and why you should go and see them. Or just other shows that they're doing. Some of them are touring. A few of them are touring, actually. Very cool time to be in comedy. But yes, my show's about my eye surgery. His show is about his stroke. So yeah, there's a lot of medical stuff, but nothing too gory that comes up. But just as a trigger warning, just in case, I thought I'd mention it. So yeah, we'll get straight on with the podcast. I'll be coming back a little bit more regular than I have been. I know I said that before, but I will. It will happen. So enjoy the podcast, and don't forget to go and buy tickets for my Camden Fringe show. I'm also doing it next month at Cambridge Fringe. So if you're around for either of those, come and see those. It's all on my website. It's going to be on there. So I'll update that soon. That'll all be on there. You'll be able to get tickets one way or another through some means. Just search it. Search Deaves Cyclops. That is SI-Clops, and you'll find it. You'll be able to buy tickets for that very easily. Everything else, I'll leave to the end. Enjoy the show. I love you.
Is mine all right as well?
Yeah, that sounds good. For some reason, everybody's voice records better than mine.
You're imagining that, I'm sure.
I don't know if I just speak sort of particularly softly or have a terrible speaking voice. It's one of the two. That's recording. I'll leave it there.
I think it's easy to imagine that your voice sounds shit where everybody else's sounds cool. It's just sort of fairly common malaise, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I actually genuinely like the sound of my voice, which both obviously, cue jokes, but I think because I used to be in a band and I used to sing appallingly and was extremely self-conscious always about my singing voice and that kind of, oh my God, I sound awful kind of thing. That in comparison, I'm not in any way self-conscious about what my voice, or I'm not saying I'm not in any way, I'm not, but I'm like, it's almost like I've had altitude training on how my voice sounds on a mic. So this sounds fine to me. I'm always like, oh no, this sounds all right. I think also, I have actually been told that the timbre of my voice is like the perfect pitch for mic recording. Yeah. Because it's like the right frequency apparently.
Yeah, you've got a sort of a
it's quite baritone really.
I guess, it's sort of like deep. A slightly gravelly note to it. It's deep enough that it sounds beautiful, but like it cuts well because of the gravelly nature of it.
Yeah, no, it's got it's like old I was listening to Mark Lanigan quite a lot this week for obvious reasons.
Yeah, of course.
It's just his voice is just so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a theory. That's not my theory. Someone said this, and I think it's quite a good theory. While discussing, are women funny? That one, and
that one woman.
But one of the things that was suggested, and I think there's quite a lot of things that actually the female voice doesn't sound great amped up unless you're singing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because it's quite high pitched and it's actually not a particularly nice timbre to just sit and listen to. So subconsciously an audience finds a female voice, regardless of what is being said, quite a little bit jarring.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably something in that. I mean, I certainly like Thatcher. She had elocution lessons to them, and they lowered the pitch of her voice.
Really?
Yeah. That's why if you sort of hear early Thatcher and then late Thatcher, as you're always doing, studying her speeches, but she drops a kind of tone.
Really?
To her sort of late, it's really quiet. It's really quiet, dark.
Yeah.
She's,
that's a great impression.
It's like they've been. She was taught to do it.
Wow.
Because it sounds less annoying.
Yeah.
Imagine what she would have sounded like had they left it.
I guess that makes sense. I can't think of any high-pitched women's voices that...
Well, I suppose they all are, to one extent. You don't tend to get women's voices that are baritone. I'm thinking, are there any that are, like, even if you were quite sort of... Don't know.
trying to think. There's got to be some. I mean, I've not got the deepest of voices, although I think it has got deeper over the years.
Yeah, mine's got deeper over the years. Certainly. Yeah.
I'm just gonna start smoking, I think. Really lower it down. Yeah, it's quite. I like when I get a cold because I get what everyone describes as a really sexy voice.
Yes, yeah, that does go down a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think I'm on the end of a cold slightly, and that might. You do get that.
Yeah, I'll wash that mic afterwards.
Yeah, probably. Have you washed it before? That's the question.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah,
that is a very good question, actually. No. We've essentially started, by the way.
Good. Right. I was wondering that, actually.
I was going to say, cause I often... Have you got a tea in your...
Yeah.
What have you got?
Coffee, actually. Decaf coffee.
So not a tea at all.
Not a tea at all. Why? Yeah. Do you want tea? Do you want some tea?
No, well, I brought tea.
Have you?
Yeah.
No, what kind of tea have you brought? In a flask?
I've got a selection.
Brilliant.
This stuff is from Good and Proper Tea Company.
Yeah.
Who I've had a few companies send me tea. These are one of them. But this is the most sort of independent brand, so I'm up for like promoting
Good and Proper. Do they do like granola? I think they might do.
Quite possibly. They do loads.
It's nice packaging.
Yeah, it's really nice. Like little boxes. The bags are nice as well.
Well, is that loose tea then?
No, it's in a bag.
That's a bag of tea. Well, I might try one of those Earl Grey if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not right now, but yeah, I don't really like what the other ones are. They
yeah. So we've got
green tea,
Jade Tips, Earl Grey, peppermint.
Jade Tips sounds like a rapper. Chamomile. My partner would like chamomile. Can I steal one of those?
Absolutely, yeah, of course. And a rooibos.
Oh, go on. Can I have one of those as well?
Yeah, that is. I love that one.
Yeah, rooibos. I like rooibos. Do you have it with milk or
no?
Oh yeah, you see. So Melinda, my partner, doesn't have it with milk, and I do. I just think it's a bit more creamier, I suppose, for a better word. So yeah.
I think you'd probably particularly enjoy that because there's. I can't remember how they describe it now. I've got another one in there. Notes of dried cherry and vanilla.
Beautiful.
So it's quite sort of creamy in itself.
Yeah, no, I think you do. You get like a really sort of like vanilla-y flavour, particularly with the milk, which makes it more vanilla.
Yeah. You'll love that.
Nice. Thank you very much for that. I like the packaging as well. It's pretty sexy.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? Just a nice sort of, but they do loads of different ones. And they said to me like, "Oh, what do you want us to send you?" I was like, "I don't know, whatever you want."
Benefits of doing a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have to chase quite a lot. There's a lot of people that have said like, "Oh yeah, we'll send you tea," and then that's it.
Where did it go?
Yeah, but I've got some just for because you asked how long this has been going, and just before I started, I got sent a load of Twinings and Tea Pig stuff, and that's now they sent me so much that it's out of date.
You probably can still drink it, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know how out of date they go, really.
It's fine. They don't go off as such, just the flavour sort of dissipates a little bit.
I bet that's probably true, but depending on the packaging, I doubt that goes off at all.
No.
It's a sort of thing. No, I'm drinking decaf coffee. So I used to be a real coffee hound. And I wouldn't say I was a coffee snob, but I'm quite, I can't drink like shit coffee. And so I was really into coffee. And then, because of my illness, which we can happily discuss at some point,
I'm sure it'll come up.
I should be drinking very little coffee. So I'm only, I allow myself one proper coffee and then I drink decaf coffee now. So, which isn't quite as exciting, but it's not too bad.
Yes. Well, I mean, you've brought it up. Not that I wasn't going to bring it up, but I find that interesting because so you had a stroke.
Yes.
And like, how long ago was that?
Well, I've had two actually. So not to brag. I had the latest one was last June.
Okay.
And then the previous one was pretty much 10 years to the day before that. Yeah.
Oh.
So there's obviously a 10-year hiatus. So I better
you're on a cycle.
Yeah. Next one.
Yeah.
So that happened, and which was obviously pretty devastating. It's taken me a while to recover. I'm still not fully recovered. As you can see by my glasses, I'm kind of, my eyes are. I've lost 50% of my eyesight.
Really?
And they're quite light sensitive. So these are slightly tinted. For that reason, but that's about the extent of my physical problems.
Okay.
Which I'm more than grateful for. Considering what could. I mean, ideally, would it not happen at all? Would be would be brilliant. But if were it to happen to you, you know, I've seen far worse off people than myself.
Yeah.
So I can, and particularly with the jobs, you know, the job that we do, where you're sort of, I mean, what other job could you? You know, I mean, I've written loads of material about it. Which is, cynically put, is kind of monetizable. Right? So, you know, there's not many other jobs that you could be doing where that would be the case.
No,
so,
absolutely. Like I often say, because my latest show is called Cyclops,
right,
and it's about how I had surgery on my eye and I went blind for a week in one eye.
You?
So,
well, how was that?
Yeah, fine. Yeah. no.
But were you bumping into things? Because it does mess your spatial awareness, doesn't it?
Yeah, do you know, it was all right. I didn't go far, to be fair. It was during the Beast of the East is when I had it done. So back in 2018.
Yeah.
So like the weather was quite bad, so I wasn't going far.
So you didn't have to go too far anyway.
Yeah.
Can you drive now?
Yeah.
Well, you say that.
Yeah.
Apart from the crash you had all the way over here. You see, I can't drive. Then they've banned me from. I can't even cycle. This was a shame. As you see, from the 2 bicycles that you climbed over in the hall, I really like cycling.
Yeah.
Or did really, well, still do, I suppose. And I would struggle to do that. I've got that sort of. I sort of say, if I was my own mother, I wouldn't allow myself to cycle.
Yeah.
Like I can cycle if it was like an open field and with nothing coming anywhere near me. Sure. I would be fine.
Yeah,
so I
go
could
in a straight line. Yeah.
But I've done it on a couple of occasions if I've had to get somewhere, and it's really not a good idea.
Yeah.
So I sort of shouldn't.
I mean, I should point out, not that this ever happened, but I had to have some steroid injections directly into my eye, which, apologies to the listeners, that's just put off.
And were you conscious?
Yes. Yeah.
How do they keep your eye from not moving, but when they do that?
They tell you that they're going to put a needle in your eye and you pretty much don't move. You got no choice. But like that was the last of the procedures that I had. Was it? Because that was directly after I had a cataract surgery.
Is that what the problem was? You had to have a cataract?
No.
Right.
That was the problem to solve a problem caused by a problem that was solving another problem.
Blimey.
Yeah.
Right.
So the short version of the story is I had a very simple thing that needed fixing, and there was a very simple surgery with a 96% success rate, and that went wrong. And my cornea melted. So I had someone else's cornea hand stitched into my eye.
Right.
But that's normally done on a 6 to 8 week waiting list, and I had it done. I think it was 6 days after the first surgery. Right. So they rushed that through, and when I say rushed, like they did it very, very well. Like for the sort of conditions, they didn't have time for it to settle or anything.
Where was it? Smallfields?
No, in Southend.
Oh, right.
And so they put that in, but where it was done sort of somewhat in a rush on an eye that wasn't the perfect shape because it was going conical was the original issue, caused by a different thing that's relatively common. Like my friend had it and he had the original surgery absolutely fine.
You were just super unlucky.
Yeah, very unlucky. Yeah, there was like they said if it does go wrong it'd be like this one thing and that's easily sortable, and then they went, oh, that's a whole different thing that we never see. Right. Like, that doesn't happen. Just like, oh, okay.
Medical anomaly, is that what you're saying?
Well, very much so, because the main surgeon who did my cataract surgery, because the guy that did my original surgery has since retired. I don't know if it's...
He's had enough.
Yeah, I don't know if he went, actually, I better stop doing that.
Lawsuit against him.
But he's taken it to a symposium in Holland as a case study, because it's so rare.
It's interesting. Funny, I've just been writing about that. So I'm all things being equal, I am doing Edinburgh, which would be a lot about my stroke.
Yeah.
I've been talking about that experience and the previous one, and I was a medical curiosity. Everyone was like, you're a medical curiosity. You're really young, and you shouldn't. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
They couldn't find the reason for the stroke.
Because that was one of the things that I was going to ask. Like, are there sort of reasons for it? Like, if you're sort of avoiding caffeinated coffee,
well,
is that
there are? What they reckon now is they found a hole in my heart, which is this weird thing of. So there was nothing else wrong with me, which is quite gratifying, and a lot of the stress came from having to go for various tests for, like brain scans and CAT scans,
Yeah.
and being injected with radioactive dye, and all of these things. You sort of felt like you were playing Russian roulette, because this is the time they find that you've got a brain tumor, or you've got leukemia, or something something that's, and 'cause it's pretty ramped up, and some of those procedures are pretty benign, and some of them are pretty unpleasant, and some of them are harrowing. But you feel like that you're playing Russian roulette, and each time I had this, it was like, you're fine, and so, which is great. But they never really found what the problem was, apart from they found a hole in my heart, which 10 years ago I didn't. I sort of elected to not get it closed, which perhaps now in retrospect was not the right move. But because they were kind of going, this may be the reason you had it, the stroke, they weren't so certain. And I was thinking, well, I don't know if I want heart surgery on a maybe. You know what I mean? If they said like, this is definitely the reason, then I would have done it.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking, and it seemed, at that time as well, I thought, again, looking back at it foolishly, but at the time I was thinking, this is a one-off. It's not going to, it's a blip, so I'm not having heart surgery. Same thing, this time there's nothing wrong with me apart from very high cholesterol, which I'm sorting out by diet and pills. And things like caffeine, you should stop doing that. But they're pretty much like, they haven't like said, don't drink, don't do this, don't, like, they were kind of like, you need to eat and drink within the guidelines, which of course, being British, none of us do. But but it's not like don't drink it, but it's the sort of 14 units, which actually is, as we all know, being British is phenomenally difficult to actually adhere to. But it isn't a sort of blanket ban. I need to have the kind of procedure. I need to have this hole in my heart closed, which I'm now, unfortunately, I'm in the kind of post-COVID kind of queue to have anything procedure that isn't sort of deemed immediately needable, and so there's a weird correlation between, that's what I was going to say, there's a weird correlation between people who have strokes young and also have holes in their hearts, so they can't find an actual causal link why a hole in the heart would cause a stroke. They're sort of guessing. They just have noticed but they've noticed that it's a really high percentage, so there must be something going on. So they do, like, now close them. And if you're sort of medically suitable, which is, I think, a bit more gratifying, because I feel anyway, a little bit more like that's the problem solved, hopefully.
Yes,
because as I say, I was this medical curiosity, and it was quite sort of you don't want to be a medical curiosity, because what you want is someone to go, I know exactly the right problem here. You need X, Y, and Z, and then it'll be sorted. To be told,
Southend is a university hospital, so that means every time I go in, they say, "Do you mind if so and so comes and look?"
Of course, we've had that. Do you mind if my 10 students watch? Which you sort of, you go, well, I support the NHS, but I don't know if I want 10 gawping students. All of that, exactly.
If this is that rare, then they're never going to have to see it again. Don't worry about it.
Well, one of the procedures I had to swallow a camera. Have you ever had this?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Man, it's that was by far the worst thing I had to do. So it's like 46 centimetres of tubing, about the thickness of that. I'm pointing at the mic stand. So it's like an air hose, basically.
So I would say that's about 12 mil.
Yeah.
If you want to monetize it.
Yeah. A bit like if you pumped up your tyres with a garage, it's sort of about that thickness of the kind of thing. And so 46 centimetres, like, almost double a ruler.
Yeah, that's big.
They put a condom on it, sort of, so that you can kind of, sort of hygienic. And you have to swallow that. And then you put a mouth guard in, and I foolishly ask, well, what's the mouth guard for? It's like, oh, so you don't bite through the camera, right, cord? And you're like, oh, right, you go, right. And then now I know this is not going to be pleasant.
Yeah.
They got like a person to kind of hold you down, because your gag reflex is just, you want to kind of get rid of it. And it's horrible. So they did that, but that's the wonders of modern science. That's what they can find, because if they put it in, rather than opening you up, they can see from the camera what's going on in most of your internal.
Wow. Can you feel
organs.
that inside?
You can't feel it inside you. You can certainly feel it in your throat.
Yeah.
It's really unpleasant. Even though they they put
imagine.
all this, so they don't want to fully sedate you because you need, because I think, that's what they did explain this.
You need to be aware.
You need to be aware so that you don't choke completely,
Yeah.
I think.
It's the same reason that I was awake for my first surgery, because I had to look at the laser and make
Right.
sure that I was always looking at it.
Right.
Which is...
Yeah, I think it's exactly that. You have to do something or not do something, as the case may be. So you're... I think they've got it better. I think the cameras got smaller from the 10 years past from when I previously did it. And I think I think anesthesia's got better as well. So the first time I was really conscious. This one, I thought I was conscious. And then I realised after the event that I think I was only conscious for half of it.
Right, okay.
So they obviously heavily sedated me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh yeah, no, I don't remember.
Yeah, enough to keep you
a
aware.
bit of that. Yeah, that didn't happen. Or I was sort of, I remember, because I remember asking how long that was. So, well, hence the fact that I know it's 46 centimetres.
Yeah.
And I remember asking that. So that event occurred. And that was in the middle of it kind of thing. But I don't remember much else of that procedure. I remember it the first time because it was far more harrowing.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, so I'm trying to think of what I was awake for. So I was supposed to, they asked me, because I'd had a few surgeries. The first one was, no, so like I say, the first one was I was awake for. The second one, where they were replacing the cornea with someone else's, I was under general anaesthetic for that, because obviously the stitching into my eye, I don't want to be awake for that. That being said, I had several removed and I was awake for that. At like sort of different junctures, because they couldn't take them all out at once because it would affect my eyesight too much. So they had to like sort of try and manipulate whichever ones they could do. And eventually, so I was on a steroid drop for a long time, which caused the cataract to grow. Right. And then I was supposed to be. They asked me if I wanted to be awake or asleep for my cataract surgery, and I was like, asleep, please. Like that sounds horrendous.
That's a trick question.
And then it kept getting worse. Like the cataract kept growing because I was still on the steroid drop. Still am. Possibly always will be. So it kept growing, and at this point we were getting further and further into COVID. And they said, "Listen, we can wait and do it at some point because we'll be able to do operations under general anaesthetic at some point, but it's not an emergency at this point." So we can do it with you awake if you want under local anaesthetic, which a lot of people do. So regular surgery. And I was like, I mean, I need to get it done. Let's just do it. And thankfully, I've got a lot of material out of it.
Well, yes.
But I was on the bed thinking, that's funny. Remember that?
Well, as I've said before, it's like it's a kind of one of the dreadful psychological states of a stand-up.
Yeah,
is that any catastrophe that happens to you, or awful or morbid thing that happens, it's about 0.4 of a second before you go, there's a joke or a routine in this, isn't there? Which is both a terrible thing to admit, but also quite useful.
Absolutely.
As I say, going back to what I said earlier, like what other jobs could you capitalise on that? And I think it's quite, also, without wanting to be overly lofty about it, I think it's quite healing, man, to talk about it. I've certainly found that. You sort of go, well, that sort of trauma, however great or small, has got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
You've experienced that, and it's good to kind of get it out.
Yeah, it's cathartic.
It's cathartic, and I think people, if you get it right, and you get the pitch of it right, so that it's not like a pity party thing.
Yeah.
Then other people appreciate it, because of course other people have had their trauma, and then whether they've had a cataract operation go wrong or a stroke, they've all had shit that they've had to deal with, or been close to someone who's had that stuff to deal with. So I think actually, one of the things, again, without wanting to sound really lofty about it, one of the things I lament about stand-up, particularly current stand-up, is that it's not used enough to actually talk about proper stuff.
Yeah.
And partly that, I think that's just because it's 2022 and a lot of proper stuff, people go, oh, you can't say that or whatever. Yeah. That's a separate and side issue. But this sort of notion, like at its best, stand-up is an art form and should be a tool for communicating really interesting and personal or sad or traumatic, wonderful tales. And not enough people, myself included, at periods of time, take that opportunity seriously enough.
Yeah.
You just spend it talking about your dick or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I am as much of a fan as the dick joke as anyone is, and I've got a number in my set. But so I'm not being sort of snobbish about it. Or thou must do something serious on stage. Absolutely not. And some of my favourite comedians do. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, Rich Wilson's got an incredible story at the minute, hasn't he? From the sauna.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is worth checking out.
Yeah.
I won't say too much about it.
So exactly. It isn't, I'm not saying, those topics should be trivialized and shouldn't be used. Absolutely not. Or I'm doing something better because I am talking about certain things.
Yeah.
Not at all. But I think it's an opportunity to do that, and cathartic for me to do it, to get rid of some of that trauma and or even get rid of it, but to sort of process. And I think it's also good for the audience. I think if you get it right, I've certainly noticed people kind of respond to it very well, I think.
Yeah. So that's something I had to do was, obviously, talking about eye surgery can put a lot of people off. So just trying to find a way.
It's hard to pitch in, isn't it, with it? Like ha Friday night, and here I am talking about something.
Yeah, because there's one way of sort of making it sound too dark and one way of making it sound too disgusting. And it's sort of trying to find that balance.
Trying to find the balance.
Which I think I've done quite well.
Yeah, good.
I think,
good,
hopefully. But,
good. I'll have to hear that. I think that's right. And I suppose that's the artistic challenge, isn't it? Is to try and find... I've certainly noticed from talking about stroke that certainly when I started, getting the pitch wrong, and it's sort of, you've got to find a way of...
Yeah.
And one of the things I've found that people don't believe me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I look normal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I had... not that I wish for this, of course, absolutely the opposite. But if I had a limp or I had a kind of speech slur, which many people, and I think that's the thing, people associate a certain sort of, they have certain preconceived ideas about what that is, and I don't adhere to that, as do a lot of stroke victims. So I don't have the kind of L plates that say "stay away from me" or a white stick or whatever it is. And I've got into quite a lot of confrontations where I've bumped into people and they were like, "Mate, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I didn't see you." And I'm like, "What do you mean you didn't see me?"
Yeah.
And you sort of, it's by the time you've explained, you're sort of you're into it. You know what I mean? So it's I'm pleased that I don't have sort of. That I don't look screwed up, Of course, I'm from a vanity point of view, but sometimes it would be handy. It's not least of all on stage, like where people will go, "Oh yeah, well he obviously has some sort of physical problem." Yeah. Likewise with you, you don't look as if you've got eye problems,
I really have to point it out again, like in a similar way, because I can't see as well out of that eye as like I might be able to. So sometimes if I'm trying to look at something out of my sort of left side, I have to turn my head all the way around.
I'm scanning,
and then people look at me and they're like, "Why is he staring at me?" I'm like, "I just can't see."
I'm not staring at you. Yeah,
it's very difficult to explain. Just like,
well, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas you wouldn't need to if you were sat there with a white stick.
Of course, yeah.
So have you got someone else's cornea in your eye?
Yeah, dead person.
Has that played with you? Or do you not think about it? I'm sorry.
No, well, I've got a very, very brief joke about it, which references the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode of Hair Toupee, where Homer gets Snake's wig, and then turns into Snake, the villain.
Yes.
And I'll make a joke saying, "What if my eye's racist?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just walking around, just like, "I don't like those people." Hang on, what?
Who really likes children?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. God, I mean, that is quite a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, and you don't know where it came from.
No. I think there's. I was told that there's a good chance that it's come from America because in America it's an opt-out situation. So you
have to actively do it.
I
think they do that now, don't they? Or
we've actually gone the other way in England. So we have always been opt-in, and I think they're now going to opt-out, or like they're bringing that in or something.
Yes, I thought that already was the case. Actually, that you had to do that. Yeah. So it comes from America. It can come from all over the world, could it? A cornea.
Yeah, but basically in America, there's like when people die there, because it's an opt-out thing and no one ever thinks about it. like when people die, if their corneas are good, they just whip them out and stick them in a storage, and they keep them all in cold storage. And then
For how long?
Well, I guess
a
a couple of months or so, because they said like there's a 6 to 8 week waiting list for the surgery, because that's how often they get the shipments of corneas in.
Wow.
And then I guess they probably last a little while longer after that for them to be able to do the surgery. But
that's amazing, actually.
Yeah,
I mean, it's quite humbling, isn't it?
What blows my mind is like this part of my body has already seen a life, an entire life has gone through.
Do you know? I mean, would it be someone you don't know this? Whether it was, would they have to be your age or not necessarily?
No idea. Yeah,
no
idea. It's fascinating,
isn't it? I mean, I suppose all one can do is be extremely grateful for that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I had to try to make it sound like I wasn't moaning about the NHS messing up my eye as well, because they've done amazing things and fixed it to a stage. Like I was at the hospital yesterday, and like I saw 2 specialists as I do. The one that did the surgery and
your double vision. Is that what it is? Boom, boom.
And they were both saying like we just never expected it to be this good, and they said we might have to do the surgery again. Sort of like my eye's gone back to a normal shape now, so there's basically like there's a slight void in my eye. So, but the only time I'd ever notice it is when my pupil gets really big. So, like when I'm in the dark. So, when I'm on stage, it's fine because generally you're looking at lights.
Yeah. Do you have what happens with because I have issues with stage lights?
It's fine for stage lights actually. Yeah.
Do you wear those glasses on stage?
Yeah.
And they're not tinted.
No, they've got anti-glare. Yeah.
Right. Because I wear you can see these they're slightly tinted.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And they're anti-glare as well, which I need on stage. And as you because we've gigged together, I sit down so that if I don't move, the lights don't move either.
Of course, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like it plays into my favour a little bit anyway because I'm quite awkward on stage. That's how I'm in real life. So like I just spend like quite a lot of time just my eyes dart around, so sort of like it just I don't look at anywhere for any particular length of time. So
did you wear glasses before?
No.
So right.
And oddly, I think they've no, I don't think they've made me funnier. I think they've made me more acceptable to audiences.
Funny that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think sitting down's made me more acceptable to audiences.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think it's done enough. It's for someone who doesn't do stand up. I suspect they probably listen to this bit and go, "What on earth are you talking about?"
Yeah,
like you just put a pair of glasses on. Yeah, you just sat down, shut up. But it is how that can become a massive difference.
Yeah,
to
it really has,
even if I think it actually does, but also to the audience definitely, but also to your own state of mind and how fragile. The balances of what your sort of psyche is to go on stage and how you need to be sort of in that particular zone, and you by changing anything from what from what you're wearing to glasses or not glasses or am I wearing a hat or am I sitting or standing or have I got a laptop on me? Am I reading from notes? Am I not doing all of those things? Have I got a guitar? Have I not got a guitar?
Yeah.
All these things which probably to a sort of punter mean nothing.
Yeah.
I think there's actually a lot of, and they mean a lot to us from a psychological point of view, but I actually think they are real signs and signifiers to an audience subconsciously about what you are and aren't doing.
I think if anything, if they watch, one particular comedian enough and they've noticed them wearing different things, then to a layman, they might say, "Oh, that's odd. That jumper makes him funnier." So no, it doesn't. It makes him more acceptable to the audience.
It can do certain things. It might make you less threatening and therefore more easy to laugh at. Like blokes will find you more easy to laugh. I think one of the things, I think you get into this thing of like blokes don't want your girlfriend laughing at them because it's and they don't want you to be too or more alpha male than them. And this is something that I'm just because I the sort of the earlier part of my pre-stroke, I suppose. Yeah. I didn't wear glasses and I was quite rangy on stage and quite a lot of movement and quite sort of certainly very alpha anyway. And sort of deliberately, more so than I am in real life. But I sort of amped that up because I always sort of think that this is a boxing match and you're going to go out there and you're going to need to punch the other person's face.
Yeah.
You know? You're not going in there. So, and I think in a lot of rooms, certainly when I started 20 years ago, that was the right call. A lot of them, you had to kind of battle.
Yeah.
I think culture's changed. And I think stand-up's changed a bit to be less confrontational. And
Absolutely.
indeed, that the alpha male is now seen as sort of public enemy number one. Certainly in comedy, I think. Discuss, but I think there's something in that. And so I've noticed and this might be an age thing as well, because I'm getting on a bit, but I've noticed that by sitting down and wearing glasses, blokes do not front it with me anymore.
Really?
There was a really amazing thing. So when did we do, I don't think it was the one, we did the Alex together a month ago maybe, or something like that. And I don't know if it was on that night when there was a load of geezers in the front row. I mean, there quite often is a load of geezers in that.
Yeah.
You know,
It's in Southend.
It's in Southend, right? But it was a load of blood, and I was thinking, for a new material night, this is not what you want. You know?
Yeah.
And they were lovely. They weren't being anyway. But traditionally, I know I would have gone on, and they would have, you know, because I think by the nature of I'm on slight like attack alpha mode, and they bristle, and I've always had to deal with geezers and slightly dick wave, you know. And I think that they just didn't. They just took me. And they really laughed at something that was quite esoteric for, you know, even for not even for me, because it's not like I'm the most esoteric act, but you know, I read a poem, and I also read a sort of from a script, which isn't sort of stand up, you know, and they were really into it, and I thought, I bet this is in part because I'm much less threatening than I used to be. You know? And it's fascinating. I find it very interesting, and I say probably to a punter, they don't even know that. They don't realise that. But I think, as we are stand-ups, I know exactly what you're talking about, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's quite interesting. Yeah.
Because that's the funny thing. Like I'm by no means a sort of a dominating character.
Right.
You know, I'm 5'8", and I'm not well. What I find odd is I think I look less in shape than I am, but I don't mean sort of out of shape. I just mean sort of like skinny and a waif. Like
you're not The Rock.
No, absolutely. And so like I'll sort of from a slightly opposite perspective, they'll be like, oh, who's this wimp? Like, and they'll try and overpower me, and then quite often I'll combat that with for want of not trying to big myself up too much, I'll intellectually battle them down, and I'll do it quite quickly as well. I'll have sort of one or two like quick lines that make them go, yep, fair enough, he's got this actually.
Well, that's,
and I've had it before where so my sort of regular closer is well, I don't want to give it away, but basically it serves to not entirely embarrass. It's in a fun way, but it embarrasses the person that I'm talking to. And quite often, like, there'll be sort of a big geezer will be the person that stands up, and they'll try and sort of fight back from it, and I'll just have something to sort of beat them with. Or like generally what I started to enjoy doing, which hasn't happened in a long time, but what I did start to enjoy doing was like I'd do the punchline, and then they'd continue standing up because I get them to stand up. They'd continue standing up as if to say like, ooh, and then I'll be like, thanks very much, I'm sorry, Deaves, and walk off, and they're still standing there going,
nice.
Oh God. It's very fun. But I did one particular gig in Brentwood, and there was a guy in the front row who very quietly had been sitting there going, "You're shit. You're a," and I was like, oh God, that's awful because no one else can hear him.
He was actually saying that?
Yeah. And then you fucking prick, and I was like, oh God, that's horrible.
It's really horrible.
And then I used him to embarrass him, and he was massive. And I stood him up, and he was about 2 feet in front of me, and he must have been about 6'3", 6'4", and the same wide. And then I did the ending, got him to sit, and then he sat there and went, fair play, mate.
Right. Do you know what's interesting? This will probably get me into hot water, but I think men are far easier to deal with in a heckle situation than women, because like men will square up, and if you beat them, they will go, "No, fair play, you beat me."
Yeah.
Like that, and they'll sit down, and their mates around them will go, "Mate, he beat you. Shut the fuck up." Like you got your dick out. He got his dick out. It was bigger than yours. Sit down. And that's the sort of that will happen.
Yeah.
But women won't. They won't. It doesn't matter how much you humiliate them. They'll go, "That wasn't funny. That's not." And you go, "No, I absolutely won that."
Yeah.
You need to, and then mates will go, "No, you're ruining my night." It's kind of like it's just so much harder to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. I can't say as I've had any female hecklers in quite a few years, I would say, but I have certainly seen more women kick off and try to start fights in clubs when people ask them to sort of be quiet or whatever.
You can't ask women to be quiet. They aren't, and they sort of see it as sort of part of their human fundamental rights. It's like, it's my birthday, and her friends will go, "Yeah, it is her birthday," as if that's justification. It's a very interesting thing. Yeah, it is a weird psychology. I've seen some terrible behaviour from. I've seen some terrible behaviour from men. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I think I've seen worse behaviour from women. Maybe women get more drunk, perhaps. Just a sort of physical size thing.
Possibly.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I've one of my favourite things I ever saw was at Brighton Comedia, and there was a woman who she wasn't sort of shouting anything abusive. She was just loud for the whole show, and it's disruptive. And like, I can't remember. I think she was still there when I was on, and I didn't have the best time. Like, it was fine. I did okay, but like, I think everyone in the back of their mind was like, "Well, this woman's still yelling."
Yeah. Yeah,
and
of course,
then,
that's it. Pulls focus.
Yeah. And then in the interval after me, the barman went over and they got the doorman up, and they were kicking her out, and the whole table's like kicking off and shouting, and they're like, "We're here for his birthday." And they said, "Well, you can all stay. You're fine. She has to go." And they went, "All right, yeah, fair enough." They just let her leave.
Well, the other thing as well, is you can't. It's very difficult to be sort of hostile towards a woman. Like, you can't. You can go to if a group of blokes and they're all kicking off, you can go, "Well, shut up, you fat." Yeah. And even if he isn't, like you can still use that as and his mates will go, "You are a fat, don't you? Let's be honest," and nobody, that's never, but woe betide you if you make any criticism of a woman's physical, sort of. Well, I mean, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that's wrong, but you cannot use a sort of physical put down. Yeah. So that defense has gone.
Yeah.
You've got to kind of reason with them, and then often my reasoning with a drunk person is, as everybody knows, regardless, is pointless.
It's the pigeon on a chessboard analogy.
Yeah. One of the I remember doing this gig, and it was a Christmas gig, so horrible. And this woman shouted something about the fact I was what she said were like, "You're too old to be wearing those clothes," or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact phrasing, but that was certainly the gist of it.
Yeah.
And to which the whole audience kind of went, "Ooh," kind of like that, And I, to my shame, went, "Yeah, because you look sharp, you fat, like that." Thinking, like, well, she's criticised me and my physical appearance, so I can criticise her, which of course, that's mistake one.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
And not how it works. And also, the woman then went, "It wasn't me. It was the woman."
Oh no!
It was the woman behind me. So not only have I called two women a fat girl, it wasn't perfectly.
It was the wrong one.
Man,
it was the wrong fat.
It was the wrong fat. It was funny now, but it wasn't then.
No,
I don't think I ever recovered from that.
God.
Quite rightly so. Absolutely shameful.
Yeah. I've got some questions.
Well, I got to answer truthfully.
Yeah, well, they're not serious questions.
Good.
They're largely silly questions. First of all, as you know, it's a tea-based podcast. What is your go-to tea? Do you like a tea?
Yes, I will go for probably a Twinings English breakfast first thing. So I always like first thing, always a cup of tea.
Yeah.
English breakfast with milk and honey now, actually, because I'm trying to not eat sugar.
Oh yeah.
And then...
What's your process with that, by the way? How are you making that? You milk first, tea bag first?
Don't really care.
Okay.
I did that with my sister. She was sure that she could tell the difference. And so we did a sort of blind taste test and she couldn't. So I'm not a big kind of... I am big on the process of tea. Like I have a teapot, and I mean I don't always use that, but I have a teapot. I like loose leaf tea. You know, if I can be bothered, I will do that with loose leaf tea. So I'm a big fan of that kind of the process of making tea. But as to whether you put milk in first or last, I don't have a preference. Do you? I don't think it makes a difference.
No, interestingly, someone once told me that it's not all teas, but with some teas, they recommend that you put the tea bag in and then the milk, and then let the tea infuse into the milk first for sort of a minute or so.
Yeah, I mean, it probably does make a minute difference. I don't think my taste buds are that sophisticated.
No, I've always just hot water on the tea bag and then a bit of milk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And also because I've always put sweetener in it. You sort of think, you're not really...
Yeah. You're not appreciating that.
I'm appreciating it, but not necessarily for all the reasons that like to make it whether I put the milk in first or last or not. So I'll do that. And then I go through phases of really liking Earl Grey tea. Yeah. And then I get kind of bored of it, I think, because it's quite particular, isn't it? Yeah. And then I'm like, I love this. And then I'll do that for a couple of months and then go, I don't want to do this anymore. But I'm a big fan, as we were talking earlier, of rooibos as well, which I just
really nice. Like. This one is the best one I've had.
Nice, great. Well, they do a vanilla one as well, which I always really like, which is particular. I mean, it is quite vanilla-y anyway. But how do you pronounce it? Rooibos?
I can't remember who it was.
Redbush.
There was there's several ways, but it was Damo Clark who pronounced it with such confidence.
What did he say?
He said Rooibos several times, and I was like...
Rooibos.
Yeah, Rooibos.
Rooibos. I think I'd say Rooibos. Rooibos.
Before I knew, I just said Rooibos, and I learned that wasn't right.
I wonder. Tomato, probably.
But he said
Rooibos.
He said Rooibos with such confidence. I was like, that'll do me. I'll stick to that now.
It's South African, isn't it?
I believe so, yeah, grown in South Africa.
I think it originally was anyway, so maybe would take the lead on a South African person.
Yeah, I'll seek one out.
You find one.
I'll find one on the street. There's loads around.
Yeah.
I'll do the research and I'll let you know.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, right. So if you're not going to have English breakfast, what would you have?
Probably Earl Grey or probably Rooibos. Yeah. Rooibos. This is a thing I was so paranoid about it for such a long time that I just didn't want to say it, and I'd just be like, "Oh yeah, I quite like these two." Show them the package. Oh yeah, Rooibos. Yeah, that's right. Do you dunk a biscuit? Well, I traditionally would have done. I try not to eat biscuits now.
Yeah, sure.
So, but I do like a dunked biscuit. Yes.
Yeah. What would have been your go-to biscuit? My
go-to bunk biscuit, probably.
Well, if you're not having many now, you can have one. What are you having?
If I had to choose a biscuit to dunk in tea, probably like a shortbread.
Oh yeah. I like a shortbread
because they're quite thick.
Have it,
they'll take because it's fucking tons of sugar and butter, isn't it? That's why they're lovely. But yeah, probably, and that I think
talking like the big thick sort of fingers.
Yeah, the finger, and that'll take a lot of tea in it as well. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, good choice. Yeah. Oh no, I don't think I think it may be the first shortbread.
Yes. And what's been the biscuit of choice?
Chocolate digestive.
No, you see, I don't like because it melts the chocolate. I don't want to melt the chocolate because that'll often fall into the tea, which I don't want.
Yeah. Depends how long you dunk it for.
Yeah.
That is what I'd say.
I don't think I like.
It absorbs quite quickly, so doesn't need long.
I don't like melted chocolate much either.
Yeah, because I quite like a dark chocolate. Digestive, and then you put it in for just long enough that the chocolate it doesn't melt, but it goes it stops being quite so solid.
See, I think I might do that with coffee.
Yeah,
because I think the coffee chocolate biscuit interface would be better than the tea. Yeah.
Oh man, there's a science to it.
Someone was saying about you could do. Is this? You probably heard this. Back this up. That if you do something like a Twix or a Drifter or a Kit Kat, bite both ends, you can then use it as a straw.
Yeah, I think it is. Jos Norris got me to do it on an episode.
Does it work?
Yeah, and I was drinking a mint, like a peppermint tea. Yeah, and I had mint penguins in the fridge, and he was like, "Just go and get one, do it now." That. And I did it, and it was great because as like once you've done it, because it's all sort of chocolate in the middle, you suck it through, and then just pop the penguin in your mouth and it just melts into a really lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, great. I'll do it again. Yeah, I'd recommend
Biscuit porn. That's what we're now doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Right, now these two are not quite so tea-based, but I really like them. I suppose it doesn't happen too much with you. You've got quite a simple name because, like, I've had a few weird introductions. My favourite being C. Diabez, which is very wrong.
Yeah.
But what's the worst way you've ever been introduced to stage?
Well, the worst way I've ever been introduced to stage is Markus Birdman.
Okay.
Which happens, or has happened a lot, and he started before me, but he wasn't famous when I started.
Right.
Mercifully, he's not mega famous.
Yeah.
But he's a bit famous. And the sort of palpable disappointment when I then come on is irritating.
Yeah.
I always say to people, MCs, it's like, if you forget my name, I don't care. I'm not an ego about it, but just shout anyone's name with confidence, because I don't really know and care. But I think nothing looks worse than, please welcome to the stage, Matt. But no, Markuss. Because you just look like some absolute no mark, don't you?
Yeah.
So I haven't really. So that's the worst way to do it. I think certain things of, I know this has irritated women, quite understandably, where they get introduced as the gorgeous such and such,
Yeah.
And I've had a few occasions where, and it's flattering, of course it is in one sense, but where where if a woman has gone, they're very sexy or they're very easy in the eye or whatever, and you just don't do that, because it's like it either sounds like I've asked you to do that, which I would never do, or it begs the question, no, he isn't. You know what I mean? Or whatever. You're sort of, it's an agenda that you don't want to put into that mix. It's kind of,
because someone once said to me, like when you're introducing people, that like, why would you ever need to mention their sex? And I was like, well, that's a good point, actually. Mm-hmm. Like, just this person's a very funny woman. Just like, well, it doesn't need saying. Just they're very
it doesn't
funny.
need saying. Yeah, it doesn't need saying. Although, it is interesting. I sometimes I've been asked specifically to introduce people in a certain way, because it sets up what they're going. Their sort of their
of course,
or whatever. Of course, that would make some sense, wouldn't it? I think I think it's fine. I would say, I would say, please welcome to the stage the lovely kind of Jeff Innocent. You know what I mean? I wouldn't necessarily make that gender based. So if I said, I think I would be annoyed if someone rapped me over the knuckles for saying a woman said, "Don't introduce me as the lovely."
Yeah, of course.
I think the sort of, but I absolutely understand. You don't want to make anything that's anything alluded to. She's quite funny for a woman, kind of anywhere near that, whatever that would be.
It puts the audience on the back foot. Like if any of them,
it does, and I absolutely
go
understand
in thinking, "Oh, I don't find women funny." If you say this is a woman, then they're immediately going to go, "Oh, for Christ!" But if the woman walks out and is just immediately funny, then they go, "Oh, fair play."
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It is interesting, and I can understand that. I think my worst way is to be introduced as Markus Birdman.
That's upsetting because it's not a million miles away. Your name, which I can.
No. Well, in fact, I actually did the banana with him at the weekend.
Oh, really?
And so therefore, people would have known he was on probably.
Yeah. People think Markus, but go on. Oh, I see.
We had to wait. Yeah. I don't think he gets the same problem. He's probably been introduced as Markus Birdman in the past, no doubt, by mistake, but it probably doesn't hassle him as much. It doesn't hassle me. It's kind of funny, but yeah.
It was I once sort of just saying the names of Martin and the like, although I think I'm going to have to cut that out now for the sake of I'm going to have to bleep this name, because once introduced me and said... I used to be gay until I saw him. It's Deaves, and I was like, okay. Yeah, what the fuck is that? Because he'd just been berating two other guys for being gay. They weren't gay. They were just there together.
I mean,
And that's classic.
Where do you start with any of that?
Yeah.
What you just said with is
Are you doing that because you know I'm going to have to bleep it?
No, I don't think you should bleep it. I think he's not a good guy.
No.
And I think, to sort of berate two blokes for being gay, whether they are or whether they aren't, it's kind of, it's context to this, obviously. I'm not saying you can't do that, because you can, but I think he probably did it so ineptly, it wouldn't have been funny. So, but yeah, I think it's interesting because I sort of, I do a bit of teaching, and I teach a sort of MC course of things that not to say.
Yeah, that's one of them.
And that's massively one of them, certainly in theory anyway. And, nothing is unsayable. And there are certain scenarios where that could be quite funny if that's been a running theme or whatever, and everybody's cool about the two gay guys in the front row, and that's been amusing throughout the whole theme.
Yeah.
To sort of make light, I'm a big fan of making light of people's differences. I'm absolutely not about you don't mention someone's gay. But you don't mention, but I know he would have done it terribly.
Yeah.
With certainly clumsiness, if not prejudice, at the same time as well.
Yeah.
And then to sort of say that about you is just like, don't do that. Don't do that.
It's needlessly rude. Also, I went up on stage. I knew pretty much, considering the audience was made up mostly of comics, most of them knew me, and they were like,
yeah. Well, exactly. It's confusion. And it's like maybe, if you're sort of fairly sort of like late Edinburgh gig or something, and we're best mates, and then I introduce you as the well-known racist and paedophile. It's like it's kind of funny, but you because you're probably half expecting it, and there's a different agenda going on there. But otherwise, it's deliberately to try and trip you. There's if I had a penny for every time I've been gigging up north and someone has done a routine about how shit the South is or London is or whatever, and then introduce me on immediately. Now, sometimes, no doubt, that's a genuine mistake. I accept that. But I know for a fact that on a couple of occasions, it isn't. And it's done to fuck you off, you know. And there's a story, I never did this because I never gigged with him, but Peter Kay used to, the comedy world has expanded, but certainly it used to be quite small and everybody used to know each other's material quite a lot. So he would know your opening joke, whether it's about corn ears or something like that. And he would do it, but he'd do it in a really snidey way. So he'd be introducing you and he would go, so this guy does a really funny joke about corn ears. Tell the joke so that he robs you of your A status and B, your opener, so that you're immediately, you either haven't heard him do it, or you have, and now you're going, oh shit, I haven't got my intro joke, which again, can play with your psyche, can't it? Especially when you know someone's deliberately trying to fuck you. That plays with your psyche. So and apparently he was famous for doing it.
Really?
And there was a number of things that he was famous for apparently, but that's pretty snidey, isn't it?
Yeah, that's horrible. Good grief. I imagine I'd just have to walk out and say one of the many things that we were talking about earlier. Right, I've got a final question.
Great.
If you had to get a tattoo of a barcode of any product, what barcode would that be?
Manuka honey.
Okay. That's the quickest anyone's ever answered.
Is that right? It's only because I've been vaguely asked this before in terms of, is there any product I would advertise?
Oh, okay.
That makes me sound far more virtuous than I am. But
you just want the payment money.
I think
money.
It's because I've thought about it. Is there anything I would actually endorse as a product, as opposed to I'd happily take the money of a number of products, but actually endorse Manuka honey is. Honey full stop. I think is, for all sorts of reasons, incredible, not least of all because it's delicious, and the kind of many and myriad kind of versions you can have, and how good it is for healing and all stuff. But Manuka honey specifically, is do you know what it is?
I do, yeah. Familiar. I've never actually had it.
Yeah, well, it's
I once had to buy it for Sporty Spice.
Did you?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I used to work as a runner
at
the theatre down the road.
Yeah.
And they were like, she's got a sore throat. Can you go out and get some Manuka honey? I was like, I don't know what that is.
It was super good for you. It's super expensive. And there's various grades of it. And it's only it's only produced in New Zealand.
Okay.
Which I also have a big affection for the country. So, like, all honey has properties that are really good for you. And Manuka honey is like a sort of super food, really.
Right.
It's really good for like stuff like sore throats, even like for salving cuts and whatnot. It's really, really good. So, yeah, I try and eat Manuka honey as much as possible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Novak Djokovic, whose name is slightly mud currently, but he swears by Manuka honey and sort of eats a lot of it, and he has the pockets to do so, I suppose. But yeah, it's good. Plus, it has a very distinct taste, which is quite nice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think I've had it in anything. I've had a lot of honey.
It's really good in coffee, but it is effing expensive. So that's the problem, but very good for you.
Nice. It's a good answer.
Ba-dump.
Yeah, not very funny, but right, have you got anything that you want to plug?
No, not particularly. I mean, I'm on tour with Jason Manford at the moment, so go and see me at one of those gigs. I'm going to Edinburgh, so please, if you're going to Edinburgh, come and see my show.
I've got a venue.
I've got a venue, which is Banshee's Labyrinth, in the afternoon. I have a title. I think I'm going to change it. It's currently called Butterfly, but I'm not sure that's what it's going to be called. I need a better title.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's about my stroke.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
I don't know why I was trying to think of something.
Any thoughts from your listeners, please send them back to me. Get in touch.
And where can people find you on the socials?
I'm on Markus Birdman. Markus is with a K. On Twitter and Instagram, and then I'm also on on Instagram and Facebook. On Twitter, is on Birdman Watching. So yeah,
lovely,
cool.
Well, thanks very much for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad we finally got around to doing it. I'll give context to the car crash in the intro.
Yes. Glad you're in one piece.
Yeah, sure. I mean, other than the eye, but
yes, well, that's an ongoing situation. We'll have to have another 2 years down the line. Eye conversation.
See how we're getting on. So that was Markus Birdman, a lovely man indeed. He gave you his social details there. I haven't written it down because I normally do, and I haven't on this occasion. But if you just search Markus Birdman, like his Markus Birdman on two of the platforms, and the other thing that he said on the other one. Someone asked me recently at a gig if I had a Patreon for the podcast, and I don't. But Ko-fi is not panning out that well. So I may well look into doing a Patreon. If anyone would be interested in that, let me know. I'm going to get some T-shirts and mugs designed, and I've been talking about the mugs for ages, but it will happen. Having a baby is involved. Don't care what you say, it's very involved. And that's coming soon. Oh, it's coming soon. But regardless, I'll do it. So I think you should buy mugs and T-shirts for the sake of supporting my baby, because that would be unfair if you didn't. If you do want to donate to Ko-fi, though, in the meantime, kofi.com/sideeves. Or just go to my link trees, linktr.ee/sideeves. It's got all the links to everything, all of it, everything. My website, all sorts. Oh, it's a bit mumbly. I really do appreciate you listening, and I look forward to seeing you at my Camden Fringe shows and Cambridge Fringe, and I'm also doing it in Leicester at the end of May, last Friday. So if you're anywhere around those places, come and see it. That show, it's a double show with Aaron Simmons, who is brilliant. If you don't know him, look him up. He's very good. So yeah, there's lots of exciting stuff happening. I've got more decorating to do, so I'm going to do that. Not right now. I'm recording this at 10:30 in the evening. But yeah, thanks for listening. Go and review the podcast. Drop us a lovely 5-star review. Say something nice. Just go on in on iTunes. 5-star review. Tell your friends. Like, subscribe, share. Oh, I've talked enough. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you soon. I promise. I love you guys. Thank you. Good night.